Coming up this time on The Green Jumper, the Cloughie striker who turned down Alex Ferguson to sign for the Miracle manager.
From afar, I used to see Cloughie on TV with his green jumper on and everything else, and he's a sort of characteristic manager that I wanted to play for, who played the football the right way.
You'll hear memories of playing alongside the manager's son.
Nigel was a terrific player, very intelligent, could score goals. He could see a pass. His vision was brilliant. But yeah, it was fantastic to play alongside him, and I learned quite a lot. And I thought we had a good partnership.
And how to expect the unexpected with Brian, especially when he grabbed your crown jewels in a TV interview.
But that's the sort of thing he did. My first ever interview on national TV, and the gaffers grabbed hold of my private. So, but again, it was hilarious and something that is a character unto, and something I look back in with fond memories.
Yes, lots of colourful stories and magical memories coming up on this episode. Hello, welcome along to the Green Jumper podcast. I'm Marcus Alton from the tribute website brianclough.com, and today I've come along to the impressive setting of Welbeck Hall in Nottingham, just a short walk from the City Ground, where my guest is a goal-scoring legend, a striker who turned down the prospect of playing for Alex Ferguson at Manchester United so he could join Brian Clough at Nottingham Forest. It's Nigel Jemson. Great to see you.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Really appreciate it.
Well, looking back all those years ago, you joined Forest from Preston in 1988, and I think the story goes that you cut short a trial at Old Trafford to then join Forest. What were the circumstances behind that?
Well, I was a young lad at Preston North End in the first team. I made my debut at 16 as a substitute away at Aldershot, and then my full debut was away at Swansea, which I scored after 11 minutes. So there's quite a lot of scouts watching the games at Preston, as they would do with a young striker playing and scoring the odd goal or two. So I was quite mischievous in the fact that I used to go into the office every time there was a home game to see what scouts were there. That's the sort of person I am. I was quite confident rather than a big head, but that's another story. There was, I think Norwich City were the first club to put a bid in for £100,000, which obviously the club turned down straight away. And the club, I think, needed really to sell me for financial reasons. And so there was a lot of interest around. I knew Nottingham Forest, maybe one of those clubs that was interested. And obviously, from afar, I used to see Cloughie on TV with his green jumper on and everything else. And, he's a sort of characteristic manager that I wanted to play for, who played the football the right way. But then suddenly Manchester United came in, which they agreed a fee of £250,000 with the football club. But Alex Ferguson just said, can we have a couple of days for him to come down and have a look at? So when John McGrath, the manager at the time at Preston, told me, I'm not keen on going. I think everyone who knows me know that I can't stand Manchester United for a start. But obviously the reasons that obviously that the club needed the money, I decided to go and see what it was like. I went the first day, met Alex Ferguson down at Carrington. We had a practice game and did well. And then I came back home. Mum and Dad asked me how it went. I said I didn't really enjoy it. And then there was a phone call, which obviously I went to answer. And I thought it was a wind-up, but Brian Clough rang me. I think they got an away game in London somewhere. I think it might have been QPR, I think. And obviously, he came on the phone saying, is that Nigel? Yes, this is Brian Clough here. I believe you want to come and sign for me. And I said, well, yes. Obviously hesitant because I didn't know whether it was him or whether it was one of the players having a prank with me. But I said, yeah, I'd love to. He said, great. I'll see you at the City Ground tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Don't be late. And then put the phone down. So obviously went back to Mum and Dad, told them that was the case. John McGrath rang me and he got a driver, John McGrath, Mum and Dad and myself. We all head off to Nottingham the next morning, and no one notified Manchester United. I don't think they're quite happy about it. But yeah, so I went down and got in front of the main man, and obviously then went on to sign.
Yeah, and you spent some time in the reserves at that point, and you were quite sort of accepting, really, that you would have to do your time, perhaps in the reserves, and work your way up.
It might have looked like that way, but inside I was not seething, but I was very anxious. I wanted to play. Right. It was a bit of a come down from obviously playing first team football at Preston North End and in front of a big crowd, the biggest crowds. And if I have to be honest, I even had to get changed with the reserves and the young lads, so I didn't go straight into the first team dressing room. So it took a while, and obviously I went back to Preston. First of all, I went to Bolton on loan first. Yes. But I have to be honest, the reason why I went back there was just to go home for Christmas, really, because obviously it was on the doorstep of Preston. So it wasn't the best loans, and obviously it was something really I shouldn't have done. And then went back to Preston to help them get into the playoffs, which we did. Obviously then I came back and I thought, right, okay, now I need to, knuckle down and concentrate on my football. And eventually got the opportunity on Boxing Day of '89 to play for this fantastic football club.
Did you think before that debut on the Boxing Day that it might not work out? Did you have any doubts?
No, not really. I believed in my ability. It was getting used to obviously the Gaffer's methods and how the football club played. I can remember playing my first reserve game just after I signed away at Man City. I was late, and I was obviously very anxious to impress and stuff like that. And Cloughie obviously got this ball in the middle of the dressing room with it on the towel, and this is your mate, blah blah, sort of thing. And at the end of the game, he's shoving this ball in my stomach, saying, "This is your friend. Don't ever run away from it." So it was a big learning curve. But some fantastic characters in the dressing room. It was a long wait, but a wait that is well worth it in the end.
When you made your debut, Boxing Day, I think it was against Luton, did he give you any specific instructions or advice or words of encouragement?
No, not really. He treated it as an old game. I don't think I found out until the day before. So I made sure that my mum and dad were down there, and I think it was 1-1. I think Steve Hodge scored. But that was obviously then I was in the team then for the rest of the season. I took Lee Chapman's place, and I think not long after, I think he sold him to Leeds. So that was a confidence booster for myself. Knowing the fact that I was in the team, he sold the striker that took the place of, so he must have thought something of me. So I was a confident person as a player anyway, and I was just delighted to get the opportunity to play.
Well, we've got a photo. It's a classic photo here of yourself with Cloughie on one side, and I think that's your Preston manager on the other.
Yeah, John McGrath, yeah. Unfortunately not with us. Well, they're both not here anymore, unfortunately.
No, but they're sort of both grappling with your head, getting hold of it. Well, can you remember what was happening at that point?
No, not really. I mean, I do remember the photograph, but I think it was John Sumter, I think, who may have taken that photograph.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they were just joking around. I think, ideally, probably both of them wanted to throttle me, I think. But no, it was a very strange day, but one I'm very proud of, and that day will live with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I know Cloughie once said that you had as big a head as him. Obviously, you say you're a confident striker, which you've got to be. What made him say that?
I don't know whether it was something he saw in me, but I think as a striker you've got to be confident, and the bigger the crowd, the better I felt. I was one of those that was very fortunate. I never got nervous before games. I wanted to go out there and do my best, and he filled me with confidence. What player can't have confidence? Knowing the fact that Brian Clough's picking you, so undoubtedly he thinks you're a good player, and then going in front of all those amazing fans at the City Ground, it was just something that I thrived on.
And he was a centre forward when he played, Cloughie. Did he give you any bits of advice on how to play the role?
Absolutely not. He just let you get on with it, and obviously if you did something wrong, he'd put you in your place. But he just let you go out there and play. The game has changed so much now to how it is nowadays, where you've got the sports scientists in, you've got people who do free kicks. Everything was really off the cuff with us. We went down to the train, walked down there, had a bit of a warm, a few sprints, 5-a-side, and we walked back. It was ridiculous, really, if you look back at it now, how it's changed. But no, it's like I said, you knew when you'd done something wrong, he'd tell you. Otherwise, if he didn't say anything to you, you're doing all right.
One of the things with players was he liked to keep their feet on the floor if he thought they were becoming too big-headed or whatever. And I think there's a story of you playing against Derby reserves, and he put you on as a sub, and with the instruction of helping the other players who were tired by taking the ball into the corner or something. But I'm not sure you took those instructions to heart.
No, it was. I remember it was a reserve game at the baseball ground, and I think he'd left me out of the first team. I'm not sure whether it was something that I did at Aston Villa, and as punishment, he thought he'd show me and put me sub, so I wasn't too happy. In fact, my mum came down all the way down from Preston to watch the game to support me, and I think everyone knows the rivalry between the clubs anyway. Whether it was a reserve team game or a first team game, he wanted to win, and I think one of the things he used to hate was wingers who used to put the ball for crossing over the back of the goal, and we were 1-0 down. We got to 1-1, and then he put me on with 15 minutes to go, and we got virtually a 3-on-2, and I was one with on the right wing. Put this crossover, and obviously went behind the goal, and I knew then I was in trouble. And then obviously he came in after the game and said, son, stand up. So I stood up. He went, "Have you ever been hit before?" And I went, "No, boss." And he came over, walked over to me and punched me in the stomach. I went, "Well, you have now." And then he just told me that was an embarrassment and everything else. But something obviously sometimes you expect. But then obviously I walked out and my mum was there and she went, "Well, what's happened?" I said, "He just hit me and all this lot." And then he marched out within 5 minutes of me seeing my mum and, "Hello, Mrs. Jemson, how are you?" And just walked off as if nothing ever happened. Yeah. But it was funny, the next morning, just up the road out here from the city ground, there was a cafe called Mackay's on Musters Road. And the players normally went in there for, dare I say it, a breakfast and a cup of tea before training. And I was sat there, and it must have been 9:30, 9:45, and a fella came up to me from the Mirror and heard about the story. And they offered me £10,000 to do a story on what had happened. And I knew that the Gaffer and the Mirror didn't get on anyway, so I declined to say anything. So I thought I'd go back. I mean, £10,000 was a lot of money, in 1989. Yeah,
definitely.
But I think that'd have been the last £10,000 I ever earned at Nottingham Forest if I'd have done something. But I just went back to the ground and knocked on the Gaffer's door, and he saw me. He said, "Gaffer, I've just been to the cafe and the Mirror wanted to do a story on it." He said, "What do you say?" I said, "Nothing at all." He went, "Well done, son," and that was it. Shut the door. So that was it, really. But again, that was Cloughie's way of dealing with players. Now, obviously, I don't know whether that would be allowed nowadays. Listen, for me, that was me learning my trade and learning from the greatest manager that's lived, in my opinion.
Shortly after your debut that we mentioned against Luton, I think you scored against Derby County shortly afterwards. That must have endeared you to the Forest fans quite quickly.
The Forest fans have been fantastic with me, to be honest. I think the next game after Luton, I'm not sure whether it was Liverpool in the FA Cup down at the City Ground, and the pitch was muddy and everything. I think we drew 2-2, and I actually won a penalty. I think Glenn Hussein brought me down. But you're right, yeah, my first goal for Forest was away at Derby. And I think, again, we won 2-0 there. Steve Hodge scored the first one, I think, and I got the second one. And, it was an amazing feeling, scoring, obviously, in front of the Derby fans and celebrating and getting spat on and everything else. It was welcome to that local derby. Yeah. And, and again, obviously, I know how much it means to the people in Nottingham and certainly the football club. And, again, that was, one of the high points of my career, on scoring a goal past Peter Shilton at the time as well.
Yeah. There's a classic TV interview, which I think I've seen posted on your social media timeline. An interview after a match. You're standing beside Cloughie, and I think you've just beaten Spurs. And he says, "Get the camera on this lad's big head because he represents football. He's a charming young man. He scores a goal at White Hart Lane. He doesn't get involved with referees. And to the best of my knowledge, he doesn't have a police record. And his dad's a policeman, so be careful." And you're smiling as Cloughie's talking towards the end of that. He did have a soft spot for you, didn't he?
Absolutely. People think that we have this love-hate relationship. We didn't at all. He saw a confident player that he wanted to keep his feet on the floor, and being a young lad at 19, 18, 19, 20 years of age, looking back, he was right. How can I say? Obviously, Brian Clough was wrong anyway. But the reason why he wanted to turn the camera onto me and why I was smiling, I was doing the interview and he was grabbing my balls. So that's the reason why I was smiling. But that's the sort of thing he did. My first ever interview on national TV, and the Gaffers grabbed hold of my private. So, but again, it was hilarious and something that is a character on T and. Something I look back in with fond memories, but yeah, it was a great result. I think it was a replay. I think in a cup, in the Little's Cup, I think, and I managed to score a good goal, and it was a good night for Nottingham Forest.
And he mentioned your dad there, and you've mentioned your mum coming to watch you. He did look after your parents, didn't he? Especially when you were playing.
It was brilliant. My mum and dad were, constantly on the go. More my mother than my dad. My mum used to work in a bank and didn't finish till 3:00, and then she used to get in the car and drive down to all over the place. I can remember she coming down to a Southampton night match once, which was unbelievable. Obviously, unfortunately, she passed away in August last year. She was my biggest fan. But without my mum and dad's support, I want to be the person I am now.
Yeah. Well, so some fantastic memories. And you played alongside Brian's son, Nigel, as well, quite a bit. What was that like? And were you able to learn anything from him?
Nigel was a terrific player. His style of play probably only suited 2 or 3 clubs in the division. Very intelligent, could score goals. He could see a pass. His vision was brilliant. Yes, maybe he lacked a bit of pace, but with his quick thinking, he gained that extra couple of yards anyway. But yeah, it was fantastic to play alongside him, and I learned quite a lot. And I thought we had a good partnership. It's always difficult, I would have thought, having your dad as manager. And Nigel he was quiet in the dressing room. He kept himself to himself, which I think he quite enjoyed. No, he's a lovely lad, and I'm absolutely delighted to see that Mansfield are doing so well at the moment. And lovely lad, and really happy to play alongside him.
Do you see elements of Brian in Nigel when you look at what he's doing now in football?
Oh hell yes, he's some of the training sessions he puts on, playing cricket instead of training and all those things. He's played under some great managers, and obviously with his dad he'd have remembered some of the things, and that he's taken that into management, and he's obviously working for him. He'd have had to adjust obviously for certain things, you could see he'd go on to be a manager, definitely.
Well, that's the first part of my chat with Nigel Jemson. The second instalment will be coming soon, including the heartbreak of the FA Cup final.
the Forest reporters who at the time didn't know what the team was, were coming up saying, "Come on, Gemma, same again as last year. You get the winner," and all that. And I'm to say I'm not playing.
And after leaving to sign for Sheffield Wednesday, you'll hear how Nigel nearly rejoined Brian at Forest.
And I can remember sitting in the room, and he walked in. He went, "Son," he said, "I don't particularly want you back, but I've been talked into it." And that was just before I nearly signed again. So it didn't happen. A great man.
So please make sure you subscribe to The Green Jumper, because you really won't want to miss that one. In the meantime, there are more memories on brianclough.com, where you can also buy signed copies of my books, including the latest one, Brian Clough, The Lost Tapes, and that's supporting good causes. And an exclusive for Green Jumper listeners, you can get 15% off that particular book using the code GREEN15 at checkout. That's the code GREEN15 for 15% off Brian Clough, The Lost Tapes. And there are also details on the website of the Green Jumper Roadshow. It'll be great to see you at one of the events if you're around. They're also supporting good causes. And of course, if you have any Cloughie memories yourself that you'd like to share, then please drop me an email. The link is on the website. I hope you can join me next time for more memories of the great man in the green jumper.
Need filming with confidence, what player can't have confidence, knowing the fact that Brian Clough's picking you.